That's it. Okay, we are saying welcome to Marielle as well. Great. So it's really great to see all of you here tonight for this seminar, which essentially is the culmination of this series that we've had now, 3 Sundays preaching and focusing in church on personal finances, God's goals for our money, and the way we can both bring glory to God using our money, but also essentially make our lives better by having God's wisdom around finances. And so talking about this, we thought it would be a good idea, or rather, Pastor Christopher thought it would be a good idea to do this seminar to help us become practical. You know, there's only so much that you can do in a sermon. There's only so much you can do on a Sunday with 200 people present. But to give you a sense of how to actually go about this, and to, in some cases, actually not just ask God for more money into the bucket, but also perhaps ask God for wisdom to fix the leaks that are in the bucket, I think is also a really good thing. So we're really thrilled to be able to have Andreas Gustafsson with us today. He's not only a chief economist at the Karolinska Hospital, he works with economy and these questions every day. And he's also someone who's got a heart for people. So that those two together, I think, will makes him the perfect person to guide us through this hour of helping us understand finances and how we can use finances for our own good and for the good of the kingdom. We're going to be going for an hour. And towards the end, we're also going to offer you the opportunity, if you're interested, to have maybe you feel that the topic of personal finances is a really tricky one for you, a really gnarly one. And so in order to help you, we want to give you the opportunity to perhaps have a personal conversation with someone in the church, with a leader, about your situation. Perhaps, give you a chance to encourage you and to perhaps point you in the right direction when it comes to just getting started. We all need accountability in various parts of our lives. And then this would be one where we would love to help you if you feel the need for something like that. So really, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Andreas and let him essentially tell us what today's agenda is going to be. So Andreas, over to you.
Well, thank you so very much, Jacob. That was such an introduction. I am so happy and thrilled to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is our private economy and our finance in our personal life. And I will do that, and just in a minute, I will start to share some PowerPoints, and we will also work through Google, Excel today, so we will be very practical. But before I do that, I can't see your faces, unfortunately. So I guess that if you have any questions or something that are not urgent, we will take them in the final 10 minutes of my session. But if there is something that really are misunderstood, or that you want to ask something, I ask you to write it in the chat. So then Jacob can come in and like say, hey, Andreas, we didn't get that, so you need to take it one more time. I think that is the way it will work. And with that said, now we'll start to share. So I just have to put up my PowerPoint here. And now you should see a screen. Do you do that? Where it says private economy?
Not yet. We're still waiting.
Not yet. Now you will see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Then let's start. Well, just have my window here so I can see. Well, first of all, it says private economy, but to be honest, I think none of us could say that our economy is very private, because economy is not only what we live from, it's what our family lives from, what we share with our friends, what we share with the society. So it's not really something that is very, very private for us. Sometimes we think like that this is what I own and so, but this will not be, first of all, so to say, a deep Bible study about the economy. But we will share some truths from the Bible in what we are sharing. But one of the basic thing here is that actually everything we are and we own belongs to God, you know. So it's not our private economy. It's something, the money we own is something that God entrusted us with, that we have the responsibility to take care of. And that's another way to see it. And that's also why I think that this subject is very important, not just from a personal view, what can I get from it, how much can I earn, but also from a kingdom view, what can I do from the kingdom of God, and how can I, with my planning and my budgeting and my taking care of my finance, actually add to the kingdom of God. And then this becomes so much more important and so much better when we think it in that way. So what will happen now is I will go through some principle and tips, and I will try to cap that one because we're a little late to like 20 minutes. And then I will show practical how to work through a budget. And then that I will do in Google Excel, or kalkylark på svenska. And then we will open up for questions in the end. Okay, so let's go. So when I was planning to do this, I didn't have very much time, you know, to how to put up a good presentation in the beginning. So what do you do when you have limited time? Hope that you don't see that one. Well, you ask ChatGPT. For you guys that don't know what that is like the artificial intelligence #1 page where you can ask anything you want. We are just waiting for having one for preaching, don't we, Coffee? Where you can ask, what shall I preach this Sunday? And ChatGPT gives the answer, you know. Anyway, I asked ChatGPT this question: what should you think about your personal finance? What is important? And actually, I got some really good answers. So I will use these answers point for point and talk about them. And sometimes you say, well, we thought of more. You are that super finance person that knows so much. Won't you give us something deeper? But actually, many things around finance are very simple. It's keys that you just need to hold on to, and you need to do them and practice them. That is the success of having a good personal finance. But it's not difficult. It's not hard to get. And ChatGPT says like this: managing personal finance is essential for achieving finance stability and security. Here are some key aspects considered in your personal finance. Well, let's start. #1, budgeting. Create a budget to track your income and expenses. This helps you understand where your money is going and allows you to make necessary adjustments in spending habits. Simple as that. Now, what is a budget? Well, a budget we will walk through a little later, but that is actually to see how much income and how much cost you will have in the future. It can be for a year, it can be for a month, it can actually be a budget for a day or for a week. Normally, we use budget for a month planning to see what income we have in the beginning of the month and all the expenses during the month, to see that we are not using more money than we get in. And the thing with the budget is you can never fool it. You will see in the end that you have kept your budget or your plan for the month. So that is so important, and that is maybe the most basic and practical thing. If you're using a budget in your home economy, you will have so much better possibility to plan. Number two, that is actually what Google says, that we should have an emergency fund. Build an emergency fund to cover unexpected expenses like medical bills. I can see that this is American written from Google, because in Sweden we get our medicals billed, almost everything of it paid. But it can be car repairs, it could be loss of income, losing your job, it could be some difficulties that you end up in. Financial experts often recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up. That means that maybe between 3 or 6 months salary saved. Now that can of course differ, and that's also important to say that all these tips and all this advice that we will talk about, they don't go for everyone in every circumstance, and you need to take what you think is important for you. And maybe if you don't have like a big family, or are in a sensitive situation when it comes to finance, it's not necessary to have so much money saved. But if you are in a risky position where you know that something can happen, it's more important to save. And to have that security can really be a good thing, to feel that if something happens, we have money saved. Number three, saving for goals. Set specific financial goals, such as buying a house, starting a business, or traveling. Create a saving plan to work toward these goals. And this is something that actually we've been practicing, me and Emma, in our family, both when we had very little money. Emma was studying, I had a low salary, and also when we get better incomes with the years. You can always save for something. It can be a short vacation on just a weekend for you and your family, or it can be for something that you want to buy for your kids, but it can also be for big things like houses or dreams that you have. But if you never start to put money away, you will not reach the goal. That is the thing with saving. So I think dreaming and saving is so important, and you can do this in many ways. The best thing is when you have a bank account, is that if you feel that it's hard to keep the money in the month, is to put the money in a special account where you also can have a better rate. But what you also can do is, when you make a budget, is that you can see that you save money in the budget for different things. So maybe you have all the money in one big account, but you can still see and follow that there is room for doing this and this in 1 year time in your budget. We'll talk about that more later. Okay, let's move on. Point 4, investing. Understands the basic of investing. Invest in an asset like stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, or real estate to grow your wealth over time. Diversify your investments to spread risks. What is the difference between these two, saving goals or investing? Well, I would say that investing is something you do actually to earn money from your money. When you are saving for a goal, for example, for a trip or to move somewhere, that is maybe more of a short time saving if it's not for a big house. But when you invest money, that can be for a long time. It actually can also be a part of your income, investing to get rates or to get money from your stock to live from. And I think that when you hear stories about people that got really rich, many of them started from absolutely nothing, but they learned the methodology, and they learned the hard work of all the time investing what they had. Instead of spending, they were investing. And if you look into this and see statistics, if you just put 100 away a month, or let's say 1,000 a month, and do that for a long period of time, you will have hundreds of thousands in a very short time if you just start to invest. So what are my advice when it comes to invest? I would say like this: for you that want to have something that it's really safe, invest with low risk. That means to put money in a bank account where you can have a rate, or that means to maybe buy funds and invest in bank funds that have a spread of risk. And what is that? Well, most banks have what they call fonder in Swedish, where they have bought a lot of different stocks. They have bought a lot of different stocks, eller aktier på svenska, in different companies. So if one company goes bad, maybe some of the other goes well. So it means like it's not like just buying Tesla stocks or buying HM stocks, but you spread the risk. So mostly many of these funds, if you look in a long time term, they will increase like maybe 10 or 8% per year. And then you can say, so that means that if you like have 1,000, you will have in 1 year time 1,100. If you have 10,000 saved, you will have 11,000 in 1 year. So in this way, you have a safe way of investing your money, and it will grow. You should ask your bank about this if you don't know the strategy, but it's a good thing to always invest money. Let's move on. Debt management. Another way to invest actually is to work with your debt. And here it says, be mindful of your debts, including credit card debts, student loans, and mortgage. Create a plan of paying off higher interest debts as quickly as possible to save interest payments. Well, first of all, to have debt is something that we in some ways we need to have, like if we want to buy a big house or stuff like that. But I would say it's wise to have as little debts as possible. And if you have debts, have mostly on things that are valuable or are an investment for you. For example, if you want to buy a house where you know that you can sell the house for a high price, that can be a good investment. And then it's okay to create a debt, to take a loan for that. But if you, for example, want to buy something fun, a trip somewhere, go somewhere, that is not a good thing maybe to create a debt for, because that is when you have consumed it, when you have went to your trip, the thing is gone. You cannot sell anything. You cannot get the money back. So that will put you in a risk. And also, many of the debts have different types of rates. For example, if you take a short-time loan on SMS or something, you will probably pay a very high rate. And that is very costly for you. So you should really think through what debts you have. When it comes to student loan, I think that could be a good thing to create a debt for. If you have a plan for the future to maybe be a nurse or maybe be a doctor or work with something, then it can be a good thing to take student loans. But maybe you should think twice if you don't have a plan. You don't know what you want to be, or you just want to study something, and then maybe you should think twice between you go into debt when you study. Yes, continue from that. Insurance. I will not cover this very much, but I think it's important to have some basic insurance for your home and for home insurance. And if you have a car, of course, a car insurance and so. This is something you can look more into, but it's a way to protect you from unnecessary things that shows up. I think though that some over insurance things, they have insurance for everything today, and if you're reading, you know, about this, you don't need to follow every insurance advice. Think what is important for me and what can I be without if I lose it or not, so that you don't pay too much money for insurance. Retirement planning, I will not cover that too much either, but it's actually a good thing to think of the future. And I think the most important thing you can do in Sweden is look that if you get a salary and a job, that you get a job where the employee, the employer that have a good plan for retirement. Point 8, continuous learning. Stay informed about personal finance topics and investment strategies. The finance landscape evolves, and staying educated can help you make informed decisions. This is a really good point, actually, because it's exactly what ChatGPT says here. The society is always changing when it comes to the finance situation. What was actual 2 years ago is not something that you can use or practice today. For example, what happened the last 2 years is that the rent has raised a lot. That affects us in so many ways. It's much more expensive to lend money, but the house prices has went down. And what you can do is that you can all the time learn what can affect me in my personal finance situation, and what can be important for me to know about. I think the best things to do is to read the newspapers and just be assured that you know what is happening in the society today. Point number 9, education and career. Invest in your education and professional career to increase your long-term earning potential. Why should you say this in SOS Church? Yeah, I think this is a good thing to talk about, actually. I think that education, it's not just formal education, meaning going to a university or getting a degree. It's about actually a lifestyle of learning, a lifestyle of being hungry to get more and more information and be good at what you are doing. And I think that we sometimes think that, yeah, it's important to work hard, and that's important, but it's also very important to learn all the time. If I am going to employ someone at my work, I want to have I want to hire someone that are competent, that know something, that are really skilled in what they are doing. And I think that this is actually also part of our private economy, because if you get good at what you are doing, you will get a good job in what you are good at, and you will be able to increase your salary and have a development of your salary because you are good at what you are doing. When I started, for example, with bookkeeping in SOS many years ago, I was responsible for some 2 million Swedish crowns.
You need water.
Yeah.
And I tried to manage that and do that. I read about it. I learned a lot about it. And then some 15 years later, you're responsible for 25 billion Swedish crowns. That's a lot more money. How can that be possible? Well, it's because you're interested in what you do. It's because you work with these things, and because you're always learning about it. Then you can get really skilled in something. And I want to put that into this teaching as well. Live within your means. Avoid unnecessary expenses and live below your means. This leaves rooms for saving, investing, and handling unexpected financial challenges. I think in society today, especially in Stockholm, but I guess it just goes all over the world, there is so much we can see on Instagram on how our neighbors, co-workers live their life, what they are doing, their vacations, how they spend the money. And that can create a pressure that we want to live in the same way. But actually, that is so stupid. I think we always need to adopt to what we have and be happy and thankful for that. If we do that, we avoid so many problems. And I think we really should share on that. If someone doesn't have possibility to pay something because they are a lack of money right now, well, let me say, they are doing the wise decision not to spend, you know. And I think you can really be thankful and blessed in a season of life just using what you have. And that is so important to say today. And I also think as church, we should encourage each other not to overspend or to do things that we don't actually really afford, but to live in a wise way. That can go in different circles in life. I mean, you can have a good job, you lose it, and then for a period of time, you need just to adopt to a new lifestyle. And then it can come back and you can spend more money. But I think it's a key to always adopt to the circumstance you are in and to be humble in that way, that it's what you have you should live from. Very important point. Regularly review your finance. It's not enough to put a 1-year budget and then just drop it. You need to look at it every month, or at least maybe every second month, and see, am I following my plan? Am I following my budget? Or do I need to change something so that things can go well? So I think that this is some of the advices we had from ChatGPT. And also last one that is also very good. Remember that personal finance is personal, and that works for no one might not works for another. The essential tailor of your financial plan according to your individual goals, risk, tolerance, circumstances. If you find financial planning challenging, consider consulting a financial advisor or personal guidance. Okay. So this was some point from ChatGPT, but I think they were very good, all of them. But now we need to ask ourselves, what was missing in this short teaching? Well, we need to call them the chat Holy Spirit, don't we? Tithes and offering, of course. The Bible talks that actually your finance will be blessed if you are tithing, if you're giving 10% of your income to the church, local church that you're involved in, and also when you are offering, and that is something that really mathematical. It doesn't go together, but it works in the kingdom of God. If we are tithing and offering, we will be blessed. Give generously time and money. I think all the time that we should be givers and not always be that strict to our budget that we're not able to sometimes give out of it. But when we do that, it's important also then that we have control, that we know what we are doing. If you give a big amount, you don't just put the money away. You know what you're doing, and you are thought it through, both in your mind and your heart. That's important. Pray about your finance. This is so good. The Bible talks about people that were praying about the finance to become rich and wealthy. That is not something unbiblical. It's unbiblical to give your heart to money, but not to pray about your personal finance. So this is something we should do. Ask God to bless us, and ask God to give us favor. And I'm so thrilled to talk about this. Sometimes it's so simple. The Bible said we shouldn't have any worries. Why don't we more often come to God with our finance situation? Both when we are crushed, God help us. We cannot manage a month more, and just pour out of our heart. But also when we are blessed, to say, God, let me continue to be blessed, and show me how I can be a blessing for others, you know. This is so important. Ask the Holy Spirit for advice. To have a Holy Spirit in guidance in your finance, I think it's an important key, you know, to living a life with God, you know, all the time. So this was the short introduction or teaching some points, and you will be able to have these points in PowerPoint, but you can also go into ChatGPT and take them down, except these 4 points that were the last of them. I wanted to keep this very simple, so it's easy for everyone to look in it. So now I think that you should be very, very practical. And I know that the levels will differ a lot when you have a seminary like this. But when I was talking with Jacob about it, and we were thinking like, we want to give the basic, mostly for those that are maybe not used to do budgeting, maybe not used to work with finance. So this will be in, I think, a very easy level, and that's the meaning, you know. So it's not complicated, but I will show you how to make your own monthly and yearly budget. Okay. Do we need a short break or a short question? Jacob, do you have anything before we move into the practical stuff?
I think we're good, Andreas. I think we should just go for it.
We just go for it. Yeah. So I have prepared something here, but I will also show some slides first of all. Well, where should I go? Well, normally when I work with the budget or our budget, I work in Microsoft Excel, which I love, but that is not a program that is for free for everyone. So when I was planning this seminary, I've used Google Kalkylark. It's written in Swedish here. Yearly budget. And where can I find this program, and how do I get it? Well, if you have a Google account, if you don't, it's free to get it. It's your Gmail account. You can just go into you know, the panel you have here, and there you find a lot of different applications that you can use. And if you look a little bit below here, you have something called Kalkylark in Swedish. And if you just go into that, you will have this menu coming up. And here you can start an empty sheet in Google, or there is some preset sheets that you can use. And actually, I tried these out, and I think they are good. So we will not make things complicated, not force anyone to use a special program. You can use what we call a yearly budget, or årsbudget in Swedish, if you just put your dot on that one. Then I go back and will show how that will work. So here is we in this thing. This is the first site that you will enter when you come into the program. Everyone see the picture now? Yeah, good. And actually, what this program has is that has down here different pages for different things. Here we have all the things gathered, the information in the budget in one slide that you can look, and we will look into that later. Here you have all the revenue, all the things, earnings that you have. I'm sorry that this was in Swedish, but I think we will work it out. I will speak in English and you will read it in Swedish. And here we have all the expenses that you have in a month. So when it comes to budgeting, the first thing you need is information. You need to know what you earn, what your expenses are. The easiest way to get this information is actually to just look into your bank account, to your home bank, and see, what did I spend last month? What do I expect to spend next month? So what you do when you come into this budget sheet is when you start with your salary, for example, and let's say now your salary is 7,000 Swedish crowns after taxes. This is what you get, löneutbetalning, payment row. So when you are planning for the next year, 2024, in this case, you will see, okay, in January I will have this 7,000, and this goes for all the month. Then you can make it very quick. You can just put the mouse in the corner like this, and you draw it this way, and then you have all the months filled with this amount. And here you can see a summary of the money that you have totally in this year. That's a lot of money, isn't it? 204,000 crowns. Maybe not very much if you're a big family, but for someone, you can see it, you think you don't have anything, but you can see it, it's quite much here. And then you can also put in other stuff. Maybe you have, like in this case, your mother or father that supports you a little. They put in 1,000. They promise to give you 1,000 every month for the Bible school fee or something. So you will have a little more, and you can just draw that. So now you can see that you have a summary of 7,000 plus 1,000, 18,000 every month. And then you just walk through all the things that you can earn. When you have done this, it can also be children commission, for example, 1,200 or what it can be per children. You can write it down. Then you can see in the collection here that this gather all the information of what you have in this column here. Then you go to your expenses, and here it's so important to work through all your expenses, and this will take some time, and this can be actually quite a hard job to understand the variation of expenses in different ways. But it's so good to do it, because some things that you didn't thought cost anything cost more than you expect. And when you see it in a yearly period, you really understand that, okay, this was really expensive. So if you have children, for example, you can start here, but we will just make some tryouts here so you get the picture of how you should work with a budget. So we jump this, but you can see here we have debts coming in, and yeah, you have been studying before, so you have a little debt here. It's not so much, but you pay 500 each month for debt in this one, and then you just draw it like this. You need to have food, and this is food point, and let's say here that, well, the food cost for me will be like 3,000. No, it's more, because you are two in the household, so you put like 6,000 there. And then you have this habit. You love to go to the restaurants, and you eat lunch every day in city, and that will be like 500 each week, because you pay 100 per lunch, and then you eat lunch 4 weeks every month. So that will be 5 times 500. That is 2,000 crowns. That's a lot of money, but let's write it down here. This is also a good way to see actually what the costs are for eating out. And when you move down here, and you can see tithing, that was important. And this we can do with a good trick. We can just put like this. We have we use our income, that was this, and we take it times 0.1. So that will be 1,700 crowns each month from your earnings. That, and then let's say that you pay quite much for your house. It's an expensive rent, 9,000. So now we didn't go through all the different things here. It's so much more that we could put in a budget. But when we look here now, and this is the important thing, actually we can see that the income was 18,000 Swedish crowns, but the expenses in our planning are 19,200 crowns, which means that every month we will lose 1,200 crowns. And looking in 1 year time, that will be 14,000 crowns. So if you don't are ready to use your savings to live according to your budget, you will actually lose this money. This is money, if you don't have a lot of savings, that you don't have. Which means that we need to go back in the budget and see what can we do. And what I'm thinking is, first of all, in this case, is looking at the restaurant part here. Do I really need to go to restaurant this much? No, I don't. I could make my own food at home, and I can only use 1 week here, 500, something like that. And then you change your budget like this. And when you go here and look, now you have suddenly you're saving 3,600 a year. So this is just very practical, the way that you should work through your economy and all the details. And in these areas, there's so much to say. We don't have time to go into it now. I was planning to like add something how you should think about different areas and how much it can be in all these things. But the most important thing, I think I made the idea clearer, is that you use a tool, that you don't think that you're planning in your head all the time, because you won't be able to keep all these areas together. You need to have the plan written down so that you can be sure that you have a good budget, a good planning. And how do you do this? Well, I think it's important, if you are a family, to do it as a family. You need to sit down and you need to talk it through with your spouse, with your kids if they are a little older. You need to discuss, what are our dreams? What do we want to save things for? And then you write that down. And is this really important, or this maybe not so important? And then you can evaluate how you should make a good plan and how you should spend your money and what's worth for you. Now, some of you guys think that, okay, this is a prison. I cannot do it like this, that way. And I'm not saying that you need to do it, but it can really be a help for you to do it at least once and see how we work it. If you manage to do your finance without it, well, be happy about it. But I think that, for me at least, this is the way to have a good plan. I will end with saying I had a friend, not a friend, a colleague that I worked many years with many years ago, and this friend, he for a long time, he complained so much about his finance. He was so sad about it. He said, like, I don't have money for my kids to go to cinema. I don't. It's always so much problem. The thing is, I know that this person had a salary about 140,000 Swedish crowns a month. And then you can say, but it's ridiculous, you can't have any problem with that amount of salary. But the thing is that it seems like the more we earn, the more thing we let things cost. And what I'm thinking is, I can see that even times we had a very little, when we had a good plan and a good thinking of how we were using the money, we still always had enough. So it's not how much you earn that is the thing, The thing is how you're planning, if you want to have a safe and good finance situation for you and your family. Okay, I think we stop there and we start with questions.
That's great, Andreas. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. And I didn't actually know that they had these really great templates on the Google website that you can use. This is awesome. Really cool. So I want to open it up. You guys have been very quiet so far, but we're at least 25 people in this round. And I'm sure some of you want to know more. So I'm just going to open up the round for questions now. Let's see, we're getting a round of applause from Pastor Christopher. How about a question? What do you think, Benjamin? You and your team there's 4 of you behind the screen, Benjamin. What were your thoughts so far on what Andres has been saying?
It's awesome.
It's really good.
Very clear. I don't think
We're
we have
taking
any
in
questions.
everything, and we all were agreeing that we should use this Google Sheets more. I personally am using it with my own template, but we were saying this is like even better overview.
Because then you get, yeah, when you get the whole year at the end, that's awesome.
So just thumbs up. It's very good, everything.
Yeah, it really does the heavy lifting for you. That's true. In that sense. So Sophia and Felix raised a hand. Over to you, Sophia.
So I just want to share a testimony. So I didn't do my money. This is Felix, by the way. I didn't do my budget 1 year ago, but then actually the Andersons, Margareta and Benjamin, helped me out to do, as Pablo, my own template. But this looks very good, and now I have a really good insight in how I do my money, and it has helped me so much to just plan out and know what to do, make good judgments about what to buy and not to buy. So this is really, really good and has helped me a lot. And if you don't do it, I highly recommend it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, one of my main takeaways, Andreas, from what you said was just to drive home the point that we often think that just the solution to our ails financially is just to make more money and have more money come in. And it's just refreshing to realize that a lot of times it's more about how we handle the money we have now. And then I believe also God will honor that and potentially, give us more money too. Who else has a question? Thank you, Felix, for that. Elmira, over to you. Elmira says, how can we manage the money for tithes as student? So, Andreas, I would just expand that question and say, what if you're in a situation where you have very, very little money in general? For example, you're doing the Bible school. How should you think about things like tithing and also a budget?
Well, it's easy to say, it's harder to do. But I'm honest now to say now this is we moving more into the spiritual. For me, at least, it's always be sold. I remember when I went to Bible school, my first salary was 3,700, and the Bible school fee was 1,000. The rent was 2,000, and then I had some extra fee for 500. I mean, it's tough, what should you live on? But the thing is, I think when you prioritize to give tithing and put that in a system, you will see that the blessing will come. That's the only thing I can say. So for me, it's been like a privilege to do it. But also it's important to say at the same time, I think, that the Bible said that you should give the tithing and all the gifts we're giving in joy and in faith, and I think that's important to say also. So if you're really struggling with that, don't be condemned if you see that, oh, I didn't have faith to do it 1 month, or I fall on it, because we should not be led by condemnation. We should be led by faith in God and see that this can work. So pray and try it. And actually, the Bible promise, if you do it, you will see the miracle. So that's my easy answer to that.
That's great. Thank you, Elmira, for that question. We still have time for a couple more. Who wants to get a chance to get in there with a question? Yes. Tanya, I have a question about tithing. Andreas showed that it was the 10% from the income. What about if you get gifts? Andreas, what do you pay tithes on? Because what if someone gives you a gift? Are you supposed to pay tithes on gifts too? What's your thinking?
It's a good question. This is like, for me, if you looked into the Bible, it says more like they receive tithing or everything they earned or received, from the field. But if you should translate that into what I'm thinking in our language, I think it can be important to give tithing from bigger gifts or from salary that you earn. But maybe smaller gifts, it will be very hard to keep everything in mind sometimes. So I think the main thing when it comes to tithing is from your salary, what you earn. Sometimes I think if you look, for example, at contributions, children contribution or stuff like that, for me, it's actually just a repayment from your taxes. So I'm not sure, if, to be honest, if I see contribution all the time as a salary or something you should tithe from. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I think that maybe you can more look at like it's part of the tax thing. But I'm thinking that we should live generous life. We should be doing sacrifice. We should give to people. And many times I think that, so let's say that you get some gift and then you give gifts. That can be part of that. So my tithing is mainly focused on the income, to be honest, and that part. But that should be according to your faith. If you feel like, no, I need to give on everything I get, then you should do it. And if you feel like, no, I put it on my salary, you do that. Do it with joy and be generous in other things, and you for sure will be blessed. But I'm not very strict in that sense. On the other hand, if you receive maybe a bigger gift or a blessing in some way, I think it can be a good principle to tithe that, to be honest.
Andreas, what about an inheritance? Do you think it makes sense to tithe on inheritance?
Yeah, I do actually. I think it can be a good thing to do that.
Great. Kwame is asking, how can you make a good investment considering that the global economy is so unstable right now? What's your thinking around that? I was actually thinking the same thing. I think it's an excellent question. The economy is really messed up right now. And, what's your thinking?
Well, in uncertain times, you should always think of the risks when it comes to investment. And that's the important thing with investment, never to invest more than you are ready to lose if you put it in high risks. So what the situation we have today is that we have quite high rates actually in just putting the money into the bank, which means that you should look into your bank and for the money that you maybe will use in 1 or 2 years time, just look that they have good rents, and then I think you shouldn't invest them in any stocks or anything right now. But if you have a long-term saving, like 10 years or 20 years, you will always be better to put them in stock or funds. So then I should buy funds right now, according to the wisest that you have from your bank. Maybe the best thing is to do right now, also when the rates are very high, is to pay on your mortgage, so pay back on your loans, so that you have, that I think can be a good advice.
Yeah. Do you pay tithes on your pre-tax income or your post-tax income?
I pay on my post-tax income, and I've heard so many versions of Bible studies, but I'm just honest to say I put on that. You can do it on your pre also. you pay offerings, but in Sweden the tax system makes the tax very, very high, and it's hard to find a line, but that's the way I do it.
Great. We have one more minute, so we have one more chance. Let's see. Hi, Deshaun says tithes. We already covered that one. Say, for example, you get salary and pay, I should give it and give someone money. Should she tithe and what she? Okay, so the first one, Andreas, is how much of your income should you aim to save? Is there a good like general level of saving that you think makes sense?
Some people say like saving 10%, giving 10% in tithing, that will make 20%. If you can do that, that's great, but that's not possible for everyone with family, you know. So I think that the rule I talked about, maybe having savings for 3 months salary or something, if you can come up to that amount, that's a good thing. I think the most important thing is to do it. If it's just 100 a month, yes, do it. See to that you save something, and it's very difficult to say for everyone that this is a good amount. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah. And with that said, it is 9 o'clock. Andreas, we're so grateful that you took the time to guide us through this. And I hope that we all just find the time to use this sheet going forward. And I think it's going to be, you know, it seems like such a practical thing, but I think it can amount to such a blessing too, because our lives need stability. So I really want to encourage you to run with whatever Andreas gave us tonight in terms of using this going forward. And hopefully we can all, just like Felix, come back in 1 year's time, in 2 years' time, and say that this has really given us stability in our finances and enabled us to focus on the things that really matter in life. So thank you again, Andreas, for your time tonight. And one last thing that I want to highlight before I forget, we also, if you feel that it's really hard for you to deal with these kinds of questions, some people just have this you know, it's a struggle for them to get going when it comes to saving or making a budget and so on. We would love to help. In that case, feel free to you know, talk to me on a Sunday, or send us an email at the general info@soschurch.se email, and then I'll make sure to hook you up with some of the leaders in the church. I've already talked to them, and they say that they would love to help you out if you feel that you have need for that. Maybe just get a coffee with a leader in the church after service or before service at some point. So I just want to offer you that as well. But other than that, we're done for tonight. Thank you all for taking part, and be blessed.
Thank you, guys.